Okay, good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing? Good. Come on, give me some sound. Thank you, thank you. This room is so big and lonely standing up here. Really, it's such a big room. Okay, well, first of all, you've made it. We have made our 3 days, and we're just coming to the end of the 2019 Zero Project Conference. Before we come to a completion, we have I think, probably a fabulous last panel discussion. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in a second, but there's a few things that I just want to highlight for those of you who are here still with us. Will you spread it out amongst your networks that the films that our awardees did last night, directly after we presented them with their awards, are now up on the Zero Project website. So what I'm asking you to do is make sure that if you have a friend who is not here that is an awardee, will you please let them know? And also, please, will you share all of the videos that are relevant to you that you feel passionate about so we can get them out there? I also have been asked to thank you for all of your social media activity. Fantastic, really appreciate it. You have still time for hashtag ZeroCon19 as we're going to the airports and trains, planes and automobiles as we go, to give your reflections for the conference, because it's really important that our voice is heard, not just in this room, but outside this room. I think Jennifer probably said it very well yesterday when she was opening up about the importance about representation, and what we see and what we hear affects the way we think and affects the way we behave. So it is the perfect panel to end today about storytelling and about the power of social media and story and film and video. And we could not be more delighted to have our panel here behind us, which has been led by what I believe is our hero here, Zara Todd. So I am going to hand over to Zara, and for anybody who needs to meet up afterwards, I think the panel will be here, because after this panel is done, we're going to go straight into closing. But we all are still around, and there's plenty of dancers going to be coming in for dancing this evening. But for now, our storytelling session by Zara Todd. Zara, over to you.
Human beings are naturally storytellers. We have been telling stories for as long as we've existed. Stories have been used to educate, to empower, and to entertain us. They are what have driven our development as civilizations, and they are inherent to all of our cultures. The thing about storytelling is, who are the heroes? Who are the narrators of our stories? Often, as disabled people, our narrative is decided by people that don't have experience of disability directly. And so our story has traditionally been told from the view of someone else. I did my first media interview at the age of 2.5. I realised when I was 14 that as a disabled person, the most powerful thing that I had was my story. And my story was the only thing that I could truly own as my own. At the age of 18, I realised that I could be the director of my own story, that I could be the person that could shape how my story was communicated to the world, that it was acceptable for me to say no to a journalist's request if they asked what my impairment was, or if they wanted to do a picture of me getting in and out of something that I found difficult. But it's taken me a long time, and we're still in a place now where disabled people are only just beginning to be narrators and directors of our own stories to communicate to the world. Now, the thing about stories is they hit you here, but they also hit you here. And as a result, they are some of the most powerful ways to communicate your experiences to other people, which is why it's so important that disabled people are given the opportunity to share our stories. So I'm Zara Todd. I will be trying to moderate our discussion for the remainder of this session, and I'm going to ask my panelists to identify themselves, and I'm going to start with Isaac.
I'm Isaac Zablocki from the ReelAbilities Film Festival.
I'm Musola Kaseketi from ReelAbilities Productions in Zambia.
What we are going to do now is each one of us has chosen an example of a film that we would like to share with the audience. I'm going to ask each of my panelists to introduce their film, and then after we have seen the film, they're no more than 5 minutes long, the three of us are going to discuss what we like and don't like about those films, and then hopefully we'll all have an interesting discussion, and we're allowed not to agree. So I'm going to start with Isaac.
Thank you, and of course I want to thank the Zero Project for really an amazing conference. This was my first time and just a fabulous experience, and I have so much to say. First of all, the film that you're about to see from the ReelAbilities Film Festival, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that, is fun. So get ready to laugh. It's a comedy. ReelAbilities is the largest film festival of its kind in the world, and we share the lives and stories of people with different abilities and across the spectrum. And as you've seen two of the films here at the conference that we've already shown, these, I think they were very representative of what ReelAbilities tries to do as far as having progressive films that are diverse and, I'd say, push the envelope a little bit and challenge our audiences and, most importantly, change perceptions of people with disabilities. The festival is run out of New York, and we try to run a first-class festival. And this is our 11th year of the festival and have hundreds of films in our archive. I know I was told to also address that, how to get your hands on some of these films, and I'll tell you a little bit about that soon. You saw at the you saw the film The Conference on the first day, which is a comedy and just so well made, and I think challenges the patronizing approaches that sometimes come with disability, and I think that's part of its edge and selling point for me. And then yesterday we showed Guest House, which stars Lauren Potter from Glee, and I think that film really breaks taboos and is a great way to open the topic of family, sexuality, and autonomy. At the festival, we follow all these screenings with conversations also with the audience and with the filmmakers. And I'd say that most of our films are not what you expect from a disability film festival. And the depictions are mostly authentic or extremely responsible. We don't show those pity and heroic films just like that. We actually look for real human stories. Our favorite films, as you mentioned, are first-person films. Our favorite films are ones where the drama is not the disability, but rather includes disability in the day-to-day drama, which is, I think, a depiction of the reality. We partner with hundreds of organizations that do fabulous work in the field, like all of you out here, but also try to reach the mainstream, and I think that's one of the powerful points of film. And the mainstream, through film, I think there's a very low barrier access, and people feel safe with films. I like to think that everybody likes movies. I know it's not 100% true. I've met that person. And through these films, we engage new audiences and actually bridge gaps that are in our society, in our community. We take these films actually to corporations and to public schools with our education project and reach really broad audiences. And we also try to raise the bar and set an example of accessibility. Specifically with these films, you saw them here, that they were all captioned, and we add audio description to the films, and the film that you're going to see right now also has audio description, so please, anyone can enjoy these films. And we present these films also as part of our accessibility in dozens of locations. We run out of New York, and we run in dozens of locations because we want to actually go to the community. And then we run in over 20 cities across the world, so you can all be a part of this festival. And my colleague Yara Kedem is here with us today also, who runs our international program. And this is a good opportunity to announce when people are looking for these films. Some of these films you could find online today on streaming sites, though you could find the full catalog on our site, on ReelAbilities.org, though they're not for public screening. They're for private screening only. We actually secure the rights for these films so you could screen them publicly. And we're about to launch a streaming site that we promise by 2020, with the help of friends, to get it together and make this festival even more accessible. We're also, and this is now I get into our film from today, for today. The film for today is Milky Pop Kid, and we have joined the fight for further inclusion in the film industry specifically, which, as you heard yesterday at one of the panels, that we are highly underrepresented. And Jennifer Laszlo Mizrahi with Respectability mentioned yesterday beautifully, and I'm going to quote actually Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, if you're familiar with that American icon, that he said, "What we see and hear on the screen is a part of who we become. Often our world mimics art in this case, and if people with disabilities are not included on the screen, they could not be included sometimes in real life." And that's why it is so important to put these films out there and make people with disabilities a part of reality. So now we're going to see a film that just nails this, everything I just said, on the head. And the film is called The Milky Pop Kid, and it premiered at our festival this past year. Please enjoy and laugh. It's just a few minutes long.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'm not here for your amusement.
Okay, we appear to be having some technical issues. I think it needs to buffer a bit. So while we're waiting for the film to load itself, I would like to ask, how did you get into filmmaking?
Thank you very much. How did I get into filmmaking? As a little girl, I loved dancing, singing, and storytelling. And as a little girl, my mother and my grandmother told me a lot of stories. And that started building my interest in the art. And it so happened at one point, I lived with my stepmother. And when I lived with my stepmother, the life that I led, I realized that I couldn't communicate with anyone. I would only talk to myself. And the only way I would talk to myself is through music, through poetry, and through storytelling. And then I started thinking, how do I tell my stories out there? I got inspired. As a little girl, we used to watch Muhammad Ali. And whenever there was Muhammad Ali, Dad would allow us to watch programs on TV, would allow us to watch certain programs that we were never allowed to watch. And I remember very, very clearly, one of the programs that I loved was Little House on the Prairies. And when I looked at the quality, I felt, wow. But when my country started making movies, the quality was too terrible. And I told myself, if I have to go and make a movie, I have to go and get skills. And yet we didn't have the film industry, the film school, nothing. So that's what inspired me, just to make good quality products and then tell stories of our own.
Thank you very much. I believe that the film is now buffered, so thank you very much for your assistance. And let's roll the film.
here?
Great. Come on up.
How do I get up there?
I'm so sorry.
Story of my life. No one ever thinks about access.
That's the sort of research I need to know. Stairs plus wheelchair. Not good. So, thank you for coming.
No worries.
Did the producers, they filled you in with...
You've got a film, right? You want to do some research?
Yes, exactly right. So just to start with like a couple of questions that are, pretty simple because, we're getting to know each other. I don't want to go like too far into the deep end. But just to begin with, how do you have sex?
Oh, I don't know. Would you like me to give you a demonstration?
That's okay. That's okay. Have you seen any of my work or...
Oh, you're the Milky Pop kid, right? I knew I recognized you from somewhere.
Well, I meant other things besides the Milky Pop kid.
The jingle. You surely you still have the jingle.
I'm not gonna do the jingle. Milky Pops, Milky Pops. Every kid loves Milky Pops.
Yes.
I'm just trying to, move past that.
Yeah, isn't it fun having things that we're trying to move past?
Exactly, and I get stopped on the middle of the street and people want me to, sign their Milky Pops and I'm like, I'm a human being.
Nice to be recognized as a human being, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, getting stopped on the street all the time and like people giving you weird looks and things, you know all that?
I guess so, yeah.
The Milky Pop Kid was definitely a great launch for my career. I am a child of the method.
I'm so frustrated. I know that I could do a better job at this role than Craig ever could.
I'm just having trouble finding the disability inside of me.
I feel like a really good way to do that would be to take your shirt off.
To take my shirt off during the scene, or?
Well, let's try it now and see what happens.
So this is what it feels like to be disabled? Or?
Yeah.
Right. Something else that I was trying to figure out is the voice. I just want to sound like I'm disabled.
Do you have anything you could, fill your mouth up with?
Put a couple in? Or?
Yeah. See what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Oh, that's
Try
good.
a few more.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Still not quite there.
More? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Keep it going. I was only playing with him. I just wanted to see how far he'd go with his method.
Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. Daniel Day-Lewis in My Right Foot. Julia Roberts and Erin Brockovich. As soon as I heard about the role, a lawyer who's also disabled, I thought, cha-ching!
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today you are called upon to make an important decision. And whatever you decide, it will impact the course of someone's life forever. But first, I advise you to check your assumptions. I am here because I know what it feels like to be judged and dismissed on the basis of first impressions, to have your truth denied and not be taken seriously. I believe that everyone has a right to be heard, and I will fight for that right until my dying days.
So, I'd like to ask Isaac, what made you choose the film for today?
Well, first of all, the most important thing is this film makes fun of actors, and I think that's an important thing to bring to this conference as much as possible. I'm of course joking. I mean, the film does actually burst some bubbles there and pretentious behaviors, and I like that. But I think it's a real great representation of this world of cinema and disability. And I mean, it starts with, by the way, a realistic moment, which is the casting moment that actors with disabilities are not even considered often for roles, and when they have an open casting role for a person with a disability, the casting directors don't think, oh, I have to put it in an accessible space. And just like in this film where she couldn't get up the stairs, that's just something that unfortunately people in the industry do not even think about. Then, of course, the way the two of them play off each other, it's first of all just fun, and I think that's good. The comedic timing is fantastic. The acting is great between the two of them. And yet it makes gives an important message at the end, and it doesn't hide that that this is a film with a message. And she looks directly at the camera and tells us how important it is to have representation. And this film is practicing what it's preaching, of course, because they're using an actress with a disability in this film. I can't even imagine what a terrible statement it would have been if they casted it differently. So I think this film, through its comedy and through its playfulness, and really turns a lot of things on its head within the Hollywood world and the casting world, it manages to make a very powerful point.
Thank you very much. When I first saw this film in preparation for this conference, the thing that struck me was that at the start of the film, it appears that the non-disabled actor has all of the power. But as you go through this film, in a very short period of time, you realise that the power dynamic is not necessarily what you see when you first start watching. And I think for me that's really, really important, because so often in films, disabled people are portrayed as kind of the powerless, or somehow going to be inspirational. Now, although this film had a really strong message, we don't want people to be necessarily imitating the actress's behaviour because it's morally questionable. And actually, for me, that's a really good thing because it shows that she's a human being. I was wondering what you felt about the film, Cathrine.
To me, the most important thing that struck me was the comedy in it. Because most of the time when you're telling such stories, they come with sympathy, sadness, and they make you feel like, oh, what's going on, what's happening? But to me, both characters are brilliant. And the lady also, when I saw the film, I was like, wow. At first, I was like, this guy, what is he trying to do? Before I went to the end of the film. But when I saw the way the lady was coming out and the way the guy was playing the two of them, the way they communicated, I saw very powerful, strong lady, and who took control at the end of the day. And also the fact that it's a lady with a disability who comes in and takes control. To me, it leaves me with encouragement and positive thinking.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm now going to hand over to you so that you can explain to us your choice of film.
Thank you very much. I chose a documentary of a woman who, I'm not going to say much until after the film is shown, but why I chose this particular documentary is through my journey, I realized that where I'm coming from, sometimes, just as my colleagues have said earlier, people tell stories of the others. I realized that I can tell a story of my own as a woman, as a Zambian woman, as a black woman, as a woman with a disability, but I cannot tell a story of somebody else if I'm not in those shoes. And to me, that's how I started telling stories. And I realized that most of the time we have had people that have come, especially in my country, and they'll tell different stories. Maybe it's on HIV, and the story is told wrongly because somebody wants to speak on behalf of somebody, but when you give the person to explain, to tell their stories, I realize that it's a very powerful way of communication. Visual Images production, we started making movies that inspire, but mostly edutaining. And through edutaining, I realized that when we make short films, documentaries, feature films, they would change lives. At first, I just thought, okay, I'm going to just make movies as a filmmaker and as a woman with a disability, but any theme, any topic that I would like to tell. But as years went on, I realized that there are certain audiences that their stories were not told the way they were supposed to be told. And that inspired me to now focus on telling certain stories that I would like the voices come out and speak on their own. So we make movies, and then through a film festival that I founded in 2006 called Shungu na Mtitima International Film Festival of Zambia. Shungu na Mtitima means smoke that thunders. That's the original name for Victoria Falls from Zambia Livingstone. Under these festivals, we make movies, and then we go out in the community, theaters, institutions, and use them apart from entertaining, but also use them to break and talk about issues that people don't talk about. To me, what is very, very interesting, especially with the film that I chose, is where we've gone in the villages, remote areas of Zambia, and we find that the first time we go there, you say, we want to have women to come, and you're expecting teenagers, young women, maybe between 15 and 30 or 35, 45, and then they give you women of 85 years, and then you say, what are they going to discuss? We are discussing these issues, but after they watch the movies, how they start discussing, and that's what inspired me to realize that I'm going to choose this film and talk about it, and it has really been an amazing film for me.
Could we roll the film, please? Just to let you know that this is just a small segment of a much larger documentary. It also has audio description.
I met Jimmy Zimba when I was working for Radio Ichengelo. I was an announcer, producer, presenter of programs, and he was in the technical department. Yeah. So I met him in 1997. Yeah. And we got married in 2001. Yeah. And I just left college, Zambia Institute of Management, and we started staying together. But during our stay, I took long to have a child. Yeah. And that was the first point of problems, because there was a time he told me, no, my parents are like, no, you can't have children because you're disabled. And he started being aggressive from there. I had a baby in 2005. His name is Taunga Zimba. And at that time, I thought, oh, okay, this is what they wanted. So here it is. And I'm going to have my peace. But no, it's like the violence that had started then kind of just escalated. And from there on, it moved to, no, my mother says I cannot be married to a disabled woman. And you know, I've only got one mother. So there's no way I'm going to be with you. And for me, I said, I don't know how we're going to do this, because your mother was even at our wedding. So I don't know how we can reverse the process. And every time even priests came home, my family came home to intervene and talk to him, they'll just be told, no, I don't want her. There's nothing wrong with her. I just can't be married to a disabled woman. If she had legs, it would be different. But she's in a wheelchair. For me, no, that's not acceptable. I can't have that. My mother wants an able-bodied woman. I experienced a lot of violence. There was a time he pushed me on a flight of stairs in a wheelchair. But thank God the wheelchair went and landed. He grabbed me, was the time he grabbed me by the arm and he started driving the vehicle. And the vehicle was pulling the vehicle was pulling the wheelchair with my arm in the driver's seat. It became so unbearable. I remember vividly, I received a call from, she was a fan on radio. And I was talking to her. The next thing I heard, he grabbed the phone. Who are you talking to? And he threw the phone. He started hitting me. I was bruised. It was a rainy day. And I said, no, I think I can't take this anymore. But I wouldn't do anything. Because I looked around, I saw a system that couldn't help me. I went to Quito Central Police. And when I reached there, I found this very uncooperative policeman who said, yes, how can I help you? To start with, as I entered, there were problems there by the entrance. Then when I went in, when you're reporting a case at Quito Central Police, there is this platform where the police officers stand. It was way above me. And I went in, and then he came, yes, madam, how can I help you? I was crying. I was in so much pain. And then I told him, no, I've been beaten. By who? By my husband. Ah, madam, are you sure you want to do this? These are domestic issues. Go and settle them at home. I said, if I was able to defend myself, I wouldn't be coming to you. Then it would be a domestic issue. What do I do to someone who knows I can't run, I can't do anything, and he continues to beat me? Look at the bruises I have. And then he started negotiating with me. No, you don't have to go this way. Do you know that he would be jailed? So I said, but if he knew that what he was doing was wrong and he would have stopped doing what he was doing. So he tried to convince me. Then a lady cop came and said, no, let her report. There was another aspect.
Unfortunately, we need to
the whole
stop the
proceeding.
film there because
He
it
got
lasts
married.
for 15 minutes and we only have a short period of time. As you can see, it's quite a radically different film from our first film. What I really liked about this film is normally when you have a documentary that's exploring disability, you have a narrator that is kind of framing how you might see a person's experience. What really spoke to me about this film is the person who's in the film, the subject of the film, is their own narrator, and they have control over the story that they're telling you. Was that what you were trying to do?
Yes, I met the lady Julian, when we are just having some meeting, giving back after coming from the CSW, and we are encouraging women with disability to speak about the issues. And this lady had a case in court which had delayed for a longer period, and I wanted to help the case. But what I loved about the lady is the confidence. Despite the fact that she had a disability, she had confidence. In our settings, especially in the village, as a woman with a disability, you're not expected to love or to be loved. You're not expected to get pregnant. You're not expected to have children. And for her, she went through that just like any other woman. So I got so inspired, and I thought, if I make this film, it's something that is going to help me to break some of the traditional beliefs and some of the thinkings that people have towards persons with disability. What is interesting is after the documentary, her case that had delayed, that had stayed in the court for more than 3, 4, 5 years was immediately resolved. She got her child, she got her divorce, and she was very happy. And that inspired me very much, because even the woman herself, she was so free, especially talking about being pregnant. It's something where if you go to the hospital, you won't have those facilities, because the moment you get to the hospital, just like at the police station, they'll start asking you, don't you feel sorry of yourself? How can you get pregnant? What's going to happen? But Julian, to me, sets a very good example of a woman with a disability who has been going out there to inspire other women. So that's why I chose the film, The Power of the Woman with a Disability in a Voice and Here of Behavior.
Thank you very much. Isaac, I was wondering what you thought about directors with disabilities.
It's one of the things that we actually look for and love to see more. We say that we take submissions from the thousands of films that come in from films that are by or about people with disabilities. And it being by a person with a disability definitely lends an important level of authenticity, of responsibility in how the story is being told. I think that's something that is very clear from this film. It also, film is really opening a window to another world, to another person, to another experience. And it's something that has to be very close to one's heart in order to do it in a true way. There's a quote from a poem that I love by Elie Wiesel, where he says, "Let us tell tales," and that's I think part of the filmmaking experience, as technical as it could be at times, and you probably know how technically we get lost in the production. But ultimately, it's about telling these stories, and they need to be stories in first person.
Thank you. So I also got to choose a film for this session, and I reflected on my cinema going. Now, I am a disabled person, and I have been so as long as I can remember. But I also vividly remember my first trip to the cinema. Unintentionally, my mum chose to take me to a film that actually portrays a disabled character. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the story of The Secret Garden, but The Secret Garden is a film where there is a very miserably, badly behaved child who is identified as disabled, who undergoes electric shock therapy, cold water therapy, all under the premises of getting them to be able to walk. They then meet another young child who's in the same house as them, who takes them out to a garden, and this garden magically heals them, so by the end of the film, they are walking. Now, my mum chose this film because she really liked the book. But for the 7-year-old me that went into the cinema, I came out of the cinema feeling really, really confused. Firstly, was I going to get electric shock therapy? Was I going to be put in a bath of ice? Secondly, was it because I was grumpy? Was that why I was disabled? Did I need to get in touch with my natural nature streak? And actually, I sat there and reflected, we need stories that actually help us explore who we are in a positive way and what our potential is, rather than trying to make us into a normal, and I use that in inverted commas, person. And that inspired my choice, because what is great about the film that I am about to show the trailer of, the vast majority of the actors in this film are people with intellectual disabilities. In fact, the lead stars of this film with intellectual disabilities have gone on to win numerous cinematic awards as a result of their performances in this film. So, in this film, no one is changed or tried to fit into in order to be on screen. And for me, that was what's really important. Before we start the film, just as a word of warning, because I'm aware of English language privilege, I have chosen a Spanish film. There is subtitling and there is audio description, but you will have to pay attention if you are not a Spanish speaker. Roll the trailer, please.
¿Me seguís a mí? En línea recta y sin desviaros.
¿Derecho?
¿Perdón?
Lo que Paquito se refiere es que si seguimos en línea recta o cambiamos de sentido.
Que sí, que ya está. Venga, vamos.
Conducir con una tasa de alcohol en sangre que triplica lo permitido, daños a un vehículo policial, resistencia a la autoridad.
No. Cállese, por favor.
¡Qué honor que un profesional como tú esté interesado en trabajar con un equipo como el nuestro!
Interesado no sería la palabra.
Ni equipo tampoco. Bueno, entonces, ¿cuándo le digo a los chicos que empezamos?
Va a trabajar usted con personas con discapacidad intelectual.
¿Qué coño es eso?
Ahora te vas a juntar con subnormales.
Bueno, elegid cada uno una pareja.
Yo tengo novia.
Es mentira, no tiene.
Yo juego de alero.
¿Chavales tontos entonces con fracaso escolar?
No, mamá, no.
Pues locos.
Subnormales.
Cuide su lenguaje, señor Montes.
Coge una pelota. No, solo una. El de rojo, coge una pelota. ¡Voy! A ver cómo os movéis. Perdón.
Tampoco es necesario que lo conviertas en los links.
Ahora ya sé por qué la llamáis la mosca.
Cojonera, la mosca cojonera.
Ni siquiera que jueguen bien. No te pido ninguna garantía. Solo que no tires la toalla. Ellos no la van a tirar.
Yo no puedo hacerme cargo de un grupo de tíos de 30 años que se comportan como niños de 6.
No, si estoy contento porque estamos juntos. Y estando juntos vamos a ganar.
Eres su entrenador, tu obligación es protegerlos y defenderlos.
Efectivamente, soy su entrenador, no su padre.
A mí tampoco me gustaría tener un hijo como nosotros.
No, perdona.
Lo que sí me gustaría es tener un padre como tú. Y muchísimas gracias por todo.
Pues al parecer vais a competir en un campeonato. Y competir significa ganar.
Usted es una buena persona y lo estás haciendo muy bien. Pero yo le veo muy bajito para el baloncesto.
Muy bajito.
Lo que pasa es que aún no ha dado el tirón.
Mi trabajo es entrenar a jugadores normales. Estos ni son jugadores ni son normales.
¿Y quién es normal, Marco? Tú y yo somos normales.
1, 2. ¿Y tus compañeros?
Están estando muy bien, me quité lo que a mí me gustaba. Y ahora yo me fute, yo me hace yo. Pero un poquito.
Es difícil, pero no imposible.
While this film is not necessarily perfect, because there are some interesting tropes in it, one of the things that made me choose it is, unlike many films about disability and about by disabled people and starring disabled people, this film actually did get a general release and support of a major production company. And I think it's interesting because, for me, there is something about having the perfect story, and there is also something about having a story which is good enough but can reach a lot of people. And courtesy of this film, the lead actors in the film with learning disabilities have gone on to get like the Spanish equivalent of the Oscars. And that means that they're now in a position to place themselves to be put in other films because they have that status, they have that recognition. I'm wondering what you think, Isaac, about what the movie industry needs to do to support disabled culture and arts to get into the mainstream.
Well, I think what you're saying is absolutely true. First of all, the movie industry, especially in America, is an industry. It's actually a business, and they're always thinking about the bottom line in big films. And I think my bottom line is that we need to level the playing field. And there's these films, most of the films that we see, especially out of Hollywood, are so far behind as far as inclusion, of authentic inclusion. Actors with disabilities are not given opportunities, often because they're not going to sell the film. But you know what? If they get included in the film and then they win an award, then they'll be able to sell the next film. If they're not included, they will never be able to help sell a film. We are seeing a lot more of this, I like to think, and we're heading in a positive direction. And I would like to see a major change in Hollywood, but also in independent films, and see more people with disabilities and more people in general just looking for more diversity in our films. And I mean, this goes across the board. We have to see more women in our films. I just read an article about in Oscar films how few speaking roles women have. And this is something that is that often, especially with disability, is forgotten. They talk about diversity in Hollywood, and that will go in many different directions. But as we like to say, the D in diversity is for disability, and that's the largest minority that we need to include.
And Cathrine, what would your ask to the film industry be as a disabled filmmaker?
Wow, very difficult question. Because I'm coming from a country where I'm the first female director, not the first female with a disability, but first female director. So I've gone through all the challenges, but what is nice is I've created a platform for upcoming women and young filmmakers. So to me, what I would love the industry to consider is to be very inclusive in the way they structure their platforms when it comes to filmmaking. Allow people that can also add to the society, whether it's entertaining or changing lives. Because most of the time it's a very difficult question because I'm coming from Zambia, Africa, and I don't know where to structure my answers because I've seen the challenges, and then you reach a point where you say, I'm gonna quit, but because you've got passion and because you have to tell stories, you just move on, and people think you're crazy. I'm one person, people have thought they're crazy. I'm crazy because I remember the first time I came back home, I started filming in South Africa to go and direct. You know, people expect a director who's tall, huge, and a man. And when I worked on set, the first soap, and everyone looked at me, they were like, what is this now? What have you brought? So, and then I would just smile and say, okay, just wait. And you have to really work very hard. But if we can sensitize our societies that, when somebody has got passion or somebody has got a talent or somebody wants to tell a story or somebody wants to act, we have to give them platforms that are very inclusive. It's not just the acting, but also the finances, everything. It's very difficult as a woman. Where I'm coming from, I don't know in other places, but I know as just a woman with a disability, and a woman from Zambia where the film industry doesn't exist, it's very difficult. So it's quite a very difficult question for me to answer. Thank you.
I like to ask difficult questions. I guess to round up this session, because I'm aware that everyone has planes to catch, one of the things that struck me about all of the films that we've seen is they're good. And on a really base level, we start from a place where we want good quality, good stories, good information, and actually, if you took disability out of the descriptor of these films, they would still be good. And I think, although it's really important that we own them as disability films because it's part of our culture as disabled people, we should be screaming and shouting from the rooftops about the quality of produce that we can create in the creative industries. We should be in a position where any disabled person can go and see a film and feel that they have been positively represented, where we don't need to be the story, we can be just in the film. Now, I know for almost any other reason, everyone hates these films and the books. But for me, Twilight, yes, the vampire movie, is a really good example of having a disabled character who is not the purpose of the story, but is still represented in the story. We don't always have to be the protagonist, but we should be represented everywhere. There shouldn't be a film, a book, a story that's allowed to come out that doesn't reflect the diversity that exists in our world. And we're a long way from that, but if we keep pushing good narratives, good stories, entertaining products, the rest of the world is going to have to listen sooner or later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, but you are my favorite session. Absolutely, thank you. Zara, you talk about quality, 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 quality. Isaac and Cathrine and Zara, thank you not only for being on our panel, but those fabulous selection and film. And I have to say, one of the biggest things for me, it just reminds me, I think it was Maya Angelou who said, one of the greatest agonies is an untold story inside you. And I just want to say, phenomenal. I just wish we had had more time. Please, what a phenomenal panel to end today. Thank you very much. Now listen, I'm going to have to run. I got to catch a plane back to Ireland, 3 planes to get home. There is no such thing as a direct flight at this time. But before I leave, I just want to say 2 or 3 things. We said we wanted your feedback. We said accessibility was a continuous journey, and we meant it. Please, please, please give us your feedback. Go to the Zero Project team. Please do it through our social media channels. We really welcome that, particularly around accessibility. I ask you to go onto thezeroproject.com. There are 2 surveys. One is in easy language. Please give us your feedback. We will report back on that next year. You are part of making this conference inclusive and accessible to all, so please do that. Secondly, it is my turn to say a huge thank you to every single one of you for being here and for being part of this family. Thank you for allowing me to overtalk and be a nuisance to all of you and to keeping time. Thank you for giving your voice and your energy. And I need to specifically thank, once again, our AV team down the back. Hold on, our signers here up here. I need to give a huge round of applause to Ava, who you never see, the whole Zero Project team. My heart always goes to Michael and to Wilfred and to Martin. And I always get emotional at this point just to say a huge thank you to absolutely every one of you. And I better now go home and be gone. So I'm gone.
Caroline, you're not leaving, and you have to answer us one question because you made one irritating remark yesterday. You said you're going to retire. So what exactly does retire mean?
I don't have time. No, I'm not going to retire from the Zero Conference, not at all. What I said, what I really meant to say was, and I really listened to what Cathrine was speaking about on the panel, when you work your entire life for a dream, it's really hard to imagine that that might come true. And I promised myself, even if it took 20 or 30 years, that I would put disability equally on the global business leadership agenda. And in Davos this year, we put it on the main stage, and we are challenging 500 companies and 500 CEOs around the world, in every country around the world, to put disability on their board agenda, make committed action, and to hand disability over to the CEOs of business, and to ensure it is never the poor cousin on the inclusion agenda ever again. And I am delighted to say I'm right in the middle of that. And so if we achieve that by Davos of next year, I stand aside to the next generation of extraordinary activists, but I will always be here for Zero. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank
you. This lady is strong. Thank you so much. It's fantastic. I get a hug. Such strong. You have so much power. And we would all like to thank you deep from our hearts for your moderation, for all you have done for us. But I would suggest, and therefore it was very important that you told us, the strength of the network is huge. And I think that together we can find from all over the world those 500 guys with the signature, but we need more information. And I would suggest that you send Michael information, what you're searching for, and the whole group here in this audience, and all our 4,000 experts will try to help you. Is that fine? Okay. And now No. Now I would like to hand you over some flowers. Thank you so much. And I wanted to say that this was a brilliant conference. Thanks to all of you. But now at the end, I have a big wish to send us symbolic presents. Would you do that for us? And I think this would strengthen the network of Zero Project. I have a question before. Who feels that he's not part of the Zero Project worldwide innovative network? Please raise your hand or give me a sign. Make it another way. Who thinks that he is?
Oh, who's part of the network?
Who is part of the Zero Project network? All of you?
Yeah.
All of you? That's fine. Then please, I'll ask you, coming home, plant a tree, a Zero Project tree. You are part of this Zero Project community, and please share this photo to us. Send it to Michael. We need 4,000 or 5,000 photos from a tree, from a Zero Project tree, together with your face and the face of your organization. This is very important to us. And then I have another question, which is even more important or as important as the first. Please send us photos of fruits. If you take innovations, if you find ways to promote the ideas you have found here, if someone else have benefit from that, please send us photos from fruits. And send us not just photos of fruits, but also information how your organization could increase the value for people with disabilities. And we will share it to all of you so that we can see in future how strong the Zero Project network is. Got it? Thank you so much for coming. And now I hand it over to Michael. To Michael, and I will say thank you afterwards.
Okay. So it's my turn now to... I have to go back, okay. It's now my turn to bring the whole team that worked behind the scene. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So please, Zero Project team, come forward. All of you have worked incredibly hard behind the scenes or on the scenes. It was an amazing job. You did, we all did together. Please come forward. And in the meantime, let me also thank some other people that have contributed. Martin Meyer for all the video material that you saw for the award ceremony, Johannes Karner for the audio description, Speech Code for the provision of their software, the UN, especially Linto Tanikl and the whole security team for the hospitality, Zeitgeist, Eva Merkisch, Silver Bloder, who helped with all the support on the organization in the background, AV Pro for the technical support, Daniel Binder and his team from Zeitecht for the Facebook video production, all the other video production, Cesar Niaga for the web design, the winery Dönberg for the wine that we got, the catering company Urest, and last but not least, all the volunteers. Thanks to everyone, and especially thanks to our team.
And I will also thank so much you all for coming and the whole team for joining us. And you were a successful and incredible team. Without you, it would not have been possible. Thank you so much for that. Okay.
2 rows, please. Please make 2 rows. Get a little bit closer.
Natascha, Isabella, kommst du zu mir? Warte, dann machen wir das so, ich bin ein bisschen größer.
1, 2, 3, yes, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Da stimmt nicht. Front. How do you think?
Okay.
Alle Videos offen, ja? Wir müssen die ganze Zeit schön sein. Hübsch sein. Ich meine, schön sind alle, aber hübsch.
Thank you so much and see you next year at the Zero Project Conference exactly in 1 year here in Vienna. Our topic will be education. And don't forget to send us the best possible innovations out of it.
I also would like to mention that all the videos from all the awardees are online now on Facebook and on our website, so please look at it, share it. And following up on Martin's remark, we need you. This is the Zero Project Network. We are organizing this, we're happy to do this, we'll continue to improve, but we need your input, we need your nominations, we need your feedback, otherwise we're an empty bottle, and that shouldn't be. So please come forward, really inform you in the next weeks what's going to come. So please join with us, stay with us, and make the next conference even better. Thank you.
And looking forward seeing photos from you all, okay? And we will share it, and the fruit photos I'm especially interested in. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.